It's Nikki here from Transport Evolved. Hope you are having a lovely day. I will start that again because I think I just cut off the beginning. Hello, everyone. I hope you're well. Welcome to Is It Only Wednesday in the world of cleaner, greener, safer and smart transport. We're having another Transport Evolved Take 2 stream. I hope that you all come and join in and say hello. I'm watching the number of viewers slowly trickle in as is normally the case. So I hope that you have had a good start to your day if you're on the west coast of the US. If you're somewhere else in the world, specifically further east, I hope your day's going well, or I hope your day went well, depending, of course, on where you are. And today we're going to be talking about specifically a couple of things that we want to, that I want to discuss with you. Some of them are going to be turned into videos in the next couple of days. Some of them are just kind of thoughts that I've had. Another thing is obviously just to give you an update on what you can expect from Transport Evolved in the next couple of weeks. So, gosh, the studio looks really terribly untidy right now. Look at this, tissues everywhere. Oh, look at this. Hard drives. So before we start, I'd love to know if you've got any ideas on what we can do with all these old hard drives. So this is an old hard drive here. It says Transport Evolved New 2010. Retired and pre-cleared May 2018. That means I basically took all the data off it. It was running for 28,000 hours, which is about 3.5 years. It's only a 2 terabyte drive, which is why it's been retired. The server next to me here is slowly getting upgraded with 12 terabyte drives. And the more drives I put in, obviously the larger the storage space. At the moment, I have two 12 terabyte drives already in the array. I've just purchased a third 12 terabyte array, which is being what we call pre-cleared right now. So it's being checked to make sure it's up to storing data on. But it means that we're slowly taking out drives that are functional, but they're just not big enough to hold all of the information and all of the data that we produce. The reason why Transport Evolved keeps all of its footage is because automakers very often remove footage from their website when they have launched a car and the car's been out for like a year or whatever. They will remove footage from that particular vehicle. They also do the same thing if there's a car that's no longer available. They will take it off. Now, some automakers, like Nissan, are pretty good. They keep their content on, but other automakers take it off within a few months. So that's why we keep all of the footage. Additionally, when it comes to reviews, footage we've shot on reviews, footage we've shot at events, it's really useful to have that information to hand so that we can get it and grab it and use it in a new video just like that. So that's why I don't archive a whole lot of stuff. I do back up, but I don't archive a whole lot of stuff because I need to have it accessed at any one time. There is an archive section on this machine, which is kind of full of slower drives, but for the most part, it's all fairly easily accessible. And we are currently at 60-something terabytes of storage. So we started the year with I think 30, 40 terabytes. So we are pretty good. So if anyone knows of any places where I can legitimately donate these, see them continue to be used in a safe environment, because like I say, I zero out all the data on these. So they're most definitely not, they're securely erased. You would have to really work very hard to read data off this. And so I'd like to be able to see those drives go forwards. I've currently got like 4 or 5 drives, I think, sitting in my storage. Now, some of them I keep because I use them in other devices. So, I'll use them when I'm on the go. But the problem with these drives is they're pretty heavy and hefty. And most of the stuff I use these days, most of the drives I use these days are like, try not to disconnect it because it's currently doing stuff, are like this. This is a 4 terabyte drive. It's very slow, but it's what we use when we're in the field and we've got a large amount of data to put on it. This one is Tiger. We also have Cheetah and Lion are the other 2 drives that we use. So there we go. Anyway, now that little bit is over and done with, and if you've got any thoughts about how we can do that, I'm also now going to pimp the Transport Evolved shop because I don't do it enough. And you may not know this, but when you go to the Transport Evolved shop and you buy stuff, swag, then it actually helps us a little bit. We get a little kickback. It's not very big, but it's a small kickback, a small commission. So I'm actually going to put this in the chat stream now. So if you want to go to our shop and support us, please do buy something and then send me a picture of you wearing it or using it. I also realised my hair is a complete mess this morning. I drove to work this morning and had the window open and I was singing merrily to my songs as I went. So my hair has kind of got that just got out of bed look. But I did brush it this morning and I gelled it up and all of that. But maybe that... Anyway, you don't want to know about my hair. We're going to start talking about classic electric cars, which I'll do in a second. But first, I just want to touch base on the Tesla Model 3 braking issue. So earlier this week, Consumer Reports said that it wasn't going to recommend the Model 3 because when it tested the brakes of Model 3, the Model 3 that it had, which was an early Model 3, Consumer Reports discovered that it was taking longer than it should to stop. And longer than it should to stop, a couple of feet longer than a Ford F-150 pickup truck, and they take quite a while to stop. Because of that really long stopping distance, Consumer Reports said we can't recommend this car to people to buy. However, Consumer Reports acknowledged that there was some variance in the stopping distances that it had recorded. Consumer Reports tries to be as impartial as it possibly can about testing. Consumer Reports doesn't take any advertising. None of its revenue is derived from advertising. And it buys all of the products that it tests. So it's not given the products, it buys the products. It spends its own money on the products and goes through the purchase process just like any other consumer would. So Consumer Reports had one of the first Model 3s, was able to obtain that, and they've had this car, they've tested it. They've criticized the ride. They've also criticized the onboard menu navigation system. If you've driven a Model 3, you'll know what I'm talking about. There are very few physical buttons on the car, and you have basically these two thumb scroll wheels on the steering wheel, and that is your interaction with the touchscreen. That's very often how you scroll through options on the touchscreen. Everything goes through the touchscreen with the exception of the gear selection, autopilot, and indicators. Everything else pretty much, and the windows. Everything else, including the mirrors, you have to adjust using that touchscreen display, and Consumer Reports didn't like that, but that's by the by. The ride quality of Model 3s has improved. I rode in a Model 3 recently that was built much more recently, and it seemed fine. I should also note that I haven't noticed that braking issue as being a problem when I've been behind the wheel of a Model 3. And obviously, I will be giving my review on the Model 3 shortly. So that's on the cutting room floor. I'm actually going to be working today. So anyway, Consumer Reports said this. Tesla got, obviously, as you might expect, Tesla was a little upset by this review. Elon Musk said, hey, that's not good. And Consumer Reports and Tesla talked, and Tesla discovered that after looking at the data that Consumer Reports provided, that it was going to do its own testing. Elon Musk had already said, if there is an issue with testing, Tesla came back and said, yeah, you're right, there is a problem with the braking. We've noted it in some of the tests we've carried out, and we've already started work on a fix. It's down to a calibration issue with the braking system, and we are going to be pushing an update to customers' cars in the next few days, which will solve the problem and make sure that the Tesla can stop in as short a time as possible. Elon also said that he would basically keep refining the Model 3. He would keep asking his staff to continue to refine Model 3 braking until it was much, much better than any other vehicle in the class. So there is definitely just having a sip of tea there. I just realized I don't think that's ever been on a video before. Who is best mum? Right up there in the corner, because normally when I do my Hangouts, I'm standing up, but the arm that I had for this whole computer system here broke, and I noticed it was breaking about 3-4 weeks ago before I went off to Nevada. And because this is an expensive computer, I decided to take it off the arm before it broke completely, because I didn't want to come into the office one day and find a smashed computer. So that's why you can now see that. That was done by a friend of mine at a recent convention. Who is best mum, meme mum, or regular mum, the character there. Anyway, that's by the by. So Tesla is pushing an update to the Model 3 to get this fix done. And Tesla is very confident that it can improve the braking of Model 3s looking forwards. So there is a video coming out on this later on today. So I'm kind of preempting my video a little bit, but some people have asked me, well, why did it take Tesla so long to notice that this was a braking issue? And the honest answer is the braking tests that Consumer Reports were carrying out were the kind of tests that you wouldn't normally reproduce in the real world. So if you think about it, these emergency braking tests in Consumer Reports case was driving at 60 miles an hour, then putting the brakes on and seeing how long the car took to stop, as in an emergency braking situation that you might encounter at any point on the road. It is incredibly important that the car functions properly in that situation, that it stops, and that it stops in a reasonable distance. But in day-to-day driving, assuming your luck is pretty good, you're not going to encounter that kind of problem. And so I think what's happened is drivers have not hit that kind of issue yet, because the Model 3, like every other electric car, has two different braking systems. I'm not talking about separate hydraulic systems like you would in a normal car. You know, you've got your braking system, your front to back and front to back, and they're crossed over, and they're two separate hydraulic systems. I'm talking about two independent braking, completely independent braking systems. So you've got the friction brakes, which are like you would find in any normal car, and then you've got the regenerative braking system. And I just realized I used the word normal, which I shouldn't really use when I'm describing, because EVs are normal now. But you've got the regenerative braking system, which uses the motors in the drivetrain and turns them into generators, allowing the car to recapture kinetic energy of movement and convert that into electromagnetic energy in the motor, and then convert that into electricity, which flows back to the battery pack, which is then converted into a chemically stored charge. That's basically how regenerative braking works. And what it does is it makes the car more efficient. It ensures that you don't waste as much energy as you would normally stopping, because in a car that just has friction brakes, when you apply the brakes, all of the energy from your movement is turned into heat in the brake pads and the brake discs, or the brake rotors, depending on where you live. And that's very wasteful. It wastes a lot of useful energy. So that's why regenerative braking exists and why it's useful. And for the majority of braking situations, the majority of braking applications, you will discover that your vehicle will use its regenerative braking first. So no matter what else you do, as long as you have a reasonable amount of space to slow down, the car will prefer regenerative braking. Now, how the car figures out whether it's going to use regenerative braking or friction braking or a combination of the two depends on a couple of factors. It depends on the speed you're traveling at. So if you're traveling at, say, 3 miles per hour and you put your foot on the brake, the friction brakes will do most of the work, because at 3 miles per hour, it's really difficult to get much regenerative braking from the car to slow the vehicle down. And obviously, if you're using an AC motor, you can't really regenerate at that kind of speed. You have to be going a little bit more quickly to regenerate electricity from regenerative braking. So what you have is a computer that sits on the braking system, and it figures out how far down you've pressed the pedal, how fast the car is going and how quickly you put your foot on the brake. So if you gently put your foot on the brake and you gently apply pressure and increase that pressure very slowly over time, the car will most likely still use the majority of its braking power will come from regenerative braking. But if you stamp on that pedal as if someone's just walked out in front of you, maybe they have, the car won't use regenerative braking at all, or it will use a little bit of regenerative braking and then switch very quickly to friction braking, or it will use both friction and regenerative braking at full power at the same time. Because in that situation, what's more important is that you stop the car, not that you recapture energy while you're stopping the car. Does that all make sense so far? Let me know if you're watching this. There are plenty of you now in the chat room. So tell me if that makes a lot of sense thus far. I'm going to have a quick drink. And I'm also going to send out another tweet. I'm explaining the Tesla Model. Oops, I used the wrong thing. If someone wants to give me the link to my own, that would be bad, wouldn't it? The link to my own thing. Here we go. I nearly tweeted to my store there. All right. So where was I? All right. Yes. Regenerative braking is used when the car figures that it's got plenty of time to slow down and stop. Okay. Now, if you are coming to a stoplight, you're slowing down gradually from, say, 60 miles per hour to stop, and you're going to do that over several hundred feet, like 400 or 500 feet, the car is going to use regenerative braking, okay? If you slam your foot on the brakes because you've got like 130 or 150 feet, the car will use friction braking. Now, most people I know don't drive their car using that second way of braking because it's very inefficient, it's very uncomfortable as a passenger, and it puts a lot of excess wear and tear in your vehicle because you're accelerating hard and you're braking hard. I mean, I'm going to give you a really good example here. So I have a Chevrolet Bolt EV, as some of you may know, and the smartphone app that I have for the car has a new feature where the car, actually I've given General Motors permission to check my car on a regular basis, and it will rate my car based on my most recent trip. So for example, here it will say, you've braked hard no times, you've accelerated hard no times, and therefore it will give me a discount on my insurance, or potentially give me a discount on my insurance. Whereas this week, it's given me a score of 33 over the week. It says I've accelerated hard 46 times, I've braked hard 5 times, but that's rush hour traffic, because sometimes you have to punch the accelerator to get through. But if you're driving in an unstressed way, you're never going to slam the brakes on in a hurry. And so the majority of Tesla Model 3 owners, I'm guessing, a lot of which are already EV drivers, already familiar with the concept. And even if they're not, they're getting used to the idea of driving EVs for the first time. It's very easy to learn. Are learning to stop and start slowing, or start stopping a little earlier in their journey, because it makes the trip more smooth, it recaptures more energy, and it saves wear and tear on the car. And that is my theory as to why, after nearly a year of production, we haven't come across this problem yet. And I think that Tesla reacted very responsibly. There will be a video coming out later on today about that, so keep your eye out for that on the Transport Evolved channel. And I'm going to read some comments before I go to the next thing I wanted to talk about. So hello from Portugal. Hello, Juan. Hello. Makes sense to me, says Jim. Yes, it's all common sense. Fantastic. Thank you. I'm glad that made sense. My explanation made sense. Hello. I was reading today that German cities are entitled to ban older diesel vehicles from streets with immediate effect to bring air pollution levels in line with European Union rules. That is true. And I think it's very interesting to see. Germany has really switched in the last 2 years from a nation that was very suspicious of electric vehicles, didn't have much in the way of promotion of them, to a nation that's really pushing very hard for EVs. And I think part of that is because obviously Volkswagen, the Volkswagen Audi group, which obviously includes Porsche as well, Mercedes-Benz, BMW, they're all working on plug-in electric models now, and so it makes sense that the German government is supporting them. I think the ban is sensible. I think there are going to be some people that are going to be upset because the ban seemed to take place very quickly. But I think it's important that we keep air quality as good as possible. And I think maybe if I was a government official and I wanted to push a ban like that through very quickly, I would do everything I possibly could to get those diesel vehicles switched to electrics or hybrids. And if that wasn't possible, or as another alternative, I would heavily incentivize people to use public transport. Germany's public transport system is incredible, certainly in some of the larger cities, maybe not so much in the countryside, but the trains run on time, they're very spacious, they're very clean. So the attitude towards public transport is very different in Germany. So it's very interesting to see. Hello from Orkney. Hello, Jonathan. I'm looking forward to seeing you in a week and a half's time at Fully Charged Live. That's going to be great. Hi, what about coasting? Seems Mercedes EVs are going to have that too. Now, coasting is a very different thing. And without going into my physics A-level education too deeply, the laws of physics say that energy cannot be created or destroyed, only transferred. The problem is, when you transfer energy from one form to another, there are always, always losses in the system. So you will either lose energy to heat through friction, or you'll lose energy due to the chemical changes that occur in the system, or resistance if it's electricity. And so energy is always lost. And so when you go from, a fairly fast speed in an EV, and you're putting your foot on the brake, you're braking nice and gently, you're regeneratively braking to stop, you're capturing some of that energy and putting it back in the battery pack, okay? But you're converting it. You're converting it from mechanical energy to electromagnetic energy, to electricity, to electrical energy, to chemical energy. There are four changes that have to take place before that energy goes from being movement to being electricity, to being in the battery pack. And at every point in that process, there are chemical losses or mechanical losses or other losses in the system, which means you lose some of that energy. Now, the coasting is very different, because when you're coasting, what you're essentially doing is you're taking kinetic energy and you're using that kinetic energy as much as you possibly can until it's run out. And that kinetic energy can be from the friction. I mean, it will slowly wear out because you're wasting that energy, or you're using that energy through the friction with the air, through the friction with the tires. And so eventually the vehicle will slow down and stop. But the difference between coasting and regenerative braking is that in coasting, you're not changing the energy. You're changing the energy of movement into the energy of movement. You will have some losses in the system, but less losses than if you turn all of that energy back into electricity, store it in the battery pack, and then turn it back into mechanical energy for movement. So that's why coasting is more efficient. But if you're coasting to a stop, that takes a long time. And coasting is not always the most practical way of driving a car. Coasting has been around for years. lots of cars over the years have had some form of coasting. Obviously, the famous one is the Trabant, which had a freewheel mode. I don't know if you know, but with the Trabant, you couldn't take your foot off the throttle and coast unless you were in, I think it was fourth gear. It had a freewheel mode. Otherwise, you had to have your foot on the throttle at all times. So now let's talk about entropy. Now entropy can't go up. Sorry, entropy, it always goes up. Entropy, yes. Chaos, yes. Anyway, I think Consumer Reports and any other auto review and outlet needs to treat Tesla the same as any other manufacturer. Tesla may have had an issue with Model 3 braking, but I'm sure other brands have had issues too. That's a really interesting comment. I don't think Tesla is being treated any differently by Consumer Reports. And Consumer Reports are very clear. This is the worst braking result we've ever seen in any car of recent vehicle. So Consumer Reports have been doing these tests for decades. And the Model 3 result that it discovered, or it found, was far worse than any other modern EV or modern car that it has tested. And that's why it caused concern. Now, Consumer Reports is very clear with other automakers when there are issues. They are very unbiased in their approach. And I kind of get frustrated, actually, when people say, oh, yeah, but people are treating Tesla differently, or people are being mean to Tesla, people being tough to Tesla. I genuinely don't see that in the vehicle world. I think often what happens is that a lot of journalists, Jeremy Clarksons of the world, they have a thing about electric cars. They don't like them, okay? And I won't deny that they do have axes to grind. But most of the automotive journalists that I've met and I work with on a reasonably regular basis, they all seem to have a fairly decent attitude now towards electric cars. Yes, there's the odd occasional dinosaur in the group, pun intended, who's not happy about the vehicle. But at the same time as people are saying, well, you have to treat all these car companies the same, there's also the plea that we have to treat Tesla differently because it's doing something different, because it's making a product that nobody else has done before. It started the electric car revolution. And you wouldn't believe the number of people who email me and go, basically, ease up on Tesla because they're doing something that nobody else has done. Okay, but they're making a product, they're making a car that is going to be sold in a marketplace alongside other vehicles. They have to deal with the same shit as everybody else, and they have to deal with the same shit in the same way. And the Model 3 braking, as someone just said in the chat, was worse than an F-150 pickup truck. I don't get all the drama, NC says. I understand. I mean, there was no drama here from me about this braking issue, which is why I made the video that is going to be released later on today. And the video focuses on, there was an issue, Tesla's identified it, Tesla's worked on a solution and is pushing it, but here's why people may not have noticed it to this point, because I think that is a very important thing to know. The emphasis of this is a braking scenario that is very rare in the real world. That said, every car needs to be able to stop quickly from speed to standstill in an emergency situation. So it's totally right that Consumer Reports called Tesla on this. It's totally right that Tesla worked with Consumer Reports to figure out what the issue, or to kind of see where their experiences were. And it's totally right that Tesla went through its own tests, and totally right that Tesla figured out a solution and went, hey, there was a problem with the calibration in the software. We fixed it, we're pushing an update. That is totally okay. The reason why I came out with this, not this video, but while I wrote a script yesterday and recorded a video, which I will edit as soon as this thing has stopped churning away, talking about why the braking may not have been noticed to this point, is just because of the practicalities of how EVs operate. It's got nothing to do with people being Tesla fans and not saying anything. It's got everything to do with the fact that in most of the world, it's not rare on the Autobahn. But you're traveling at super high speeds on the Autobahn. That's why it didn't get noticed at that point. We had the first hydrogen fuel cell station opening in Kirkwall, part of the big HIT project. I'm not a fan of fuel cells in EVs, but we have too much electricity, so storing it is the way to go, says Jonathan. Yes, Jonathan, you're totally right. Orkney is one of the cleanest parts in the UK because of the way they it works very well for energy storage. I also think, and I might be very, very unpopular here, but I also think that hydrogen fuel cell and other fuel cell types do have a place in the future for transportation as range extenders for electric vehicles. And that is a thing that we might be able to see moving forwards. Yay, I managed to see your stream early enough to see it live. Hello. Yes, my stream is very, very good. 114% of electricity was from renewables last year on Orkney, says Jonathan. They export a lot of it. So I wish I could come up to Orkney. I'm going to the UK. I will be in the UK from June 1st through until, June 2nd. So I leave here on June 1st. I arrive on June 2nd because it's an overnight flight. And I'm leaving again on the 13th, which means I'm basically around from the 2nd to the 12th. I will be at Fully Charged Live, which I'm so excited about. And I'm going to be doing a panel on Sunday morning. Let's see what my panel is. I can't remember. Fully Charged Live. I cannot remember the name of it, which is kind of bad. It's about trumping things. I know the word Trump is in it, which is bad. Okay, here we go. Why Megatrends Trump Politics? Robert Llewellyn hosts me. Roger Atkins, who I've worked with before, and Alicia Murphy, who I don't think I know. So that's going to be a fun one. And then there are some other great panels that I'm going to be hopefully looking at. I'm not involved in any others, but it should be a fun time, and that's going to be on the Sunday morning. I'm also going to probably have a little Transport Evolved get together at some point. And go from there. I would love it if you could do planned out live streams. I would too, and I'm going to try and do that more. Life has been so hectic that just trying to get content out, I mean, that's my first priority. But yeah, I would like to do more Transport Evolve hang times, and maybe Wednesdays are the time to do it looking forward. So maybe that's something we need to look at pushing forwards. Also, of course, this is on Transport Evolved Take 2. Rather than the main channel. You can see this on the main channel, but it's Transport Evolved Take 2. And as part of that, what I would really love for those of you who are watching is if you can go back and watch any of the content on Transport Evolved Take 2 that you haven't seen yet. Give me some hours for watching. And the reason behind that is this. At the moment, Transport Evolved Take 2 does not have any ad revenue because we're still a small channel. And every time I make a new channel, I have to go back and earn monetization status from ground zero. Right now, we've met our subscriber count for monetization, but we still need 4,000 hours of views in the last 12 months. And right now, we are at about 1,500 hours worth of views. So you watching this live stream right now, you're helping me bring that up. But obviously, if you can help share this channel, share the love, that would be great. I'm going to be doing more stuff on Transport Evolved Take 2. I'll probably do an airport hangout next week when I'm at the airport, which will be Friday. And I might do some other fun things as well. And it's not just this channel. I mean, for those, some of you may or may not know, Transport Evolved owns quite a few channels. There's Transport Evolved Take 2. And then there's the other side of my business, which is Queenie Deerheart, Jimmy Changa Fox, and a couple of other channels. Those other channels used to earn money. And then when Google changed it, they didn't do stuff. So watch those vids for me. Help me bring this channel up so I can start earning money. The more money we bring in, the easier it is for us to make bigger videos, the easier it is for us to get extra people in. I am in the process of trying to decide right now whether I bring someone in to do video editing, whether I bring someone in front of the camera, whether I bring someone in to help me with the business side of the business. But I am looking to hire a part-timer at some point in the next few months so that when we do CES in January, it's less of a strain, less of a stress, and we get stuff done. I can't afford a full-time employee right now. We're not bringing in enough money, but that is where it stands right now. So Fully Charged Live, I will be coming down. I'm going to be in Norfolk in the UK. The majority of the time I am here the majority of the time I am in the UK. Sorry, someone is trying to reach me on messages. I don't understand the mute button. Let me mute it. Let me see if it works. If I mute myself, let me know. So I'm going to be in the UK from the 2nd until the 12th of June. Most of that time I will be in Norfolk, but I will be at Silverstone on the 9th of June for Fully Charged Live on the Saturday, and then I will be staying overnight in that area, and then I will be staying until the Sunday and then heading back probably to Norfolk, although there is some questions. I might go down to Bristol. There's a couple of things I need to do down there. So essentially, if you're around and you want to meet up, come and say hi, come and say hello, come and see Twizzy on our stand. I would love to see the Twizzy. I really miss my Twizzy so much. I really do. I'm also going to be doing some filming, so if you've got something fun you want to show me in the EV world and you think it might make a good episode of Transport Evolved, let me know. So let's talk classics, because in the last couple of months there has been the last couple of weeks, there's been a real increase in interest in classic electric vehicles. And that's partly because classic electric vehicles are now much easier to build than they once were. There's more components available, battery packs are better, and people are starting to really understand the conversion business, but also because of the royal wedding. Now, obviously, people have been converting electric vehicles to electricity. People have been converting petrol cars, diesel cars to electricity for decades. I mean, literally decades. I know people who converted Volkswagen Mark II, Mark III, Mark I Golfs to electric. I know people that have converted all manner of other vehicles to electric, and the Morris Minor, of course, the car which started off my journey into the world of cleaner, greener, safer, and smarter transportation was the Morris Minor. I had a Morris Minor, I had two Morris Minors actually. I had a 1961 Morris Minor called Carrie that was a 1.8 litre hot rod with VVT, a K-series VVT engine developing about 200 brake. Absolutely crazy car. Would do 0 to 60 in stupid time and would do 70 miles an hour in second, third gear. Had a 5-speed box. It was a straight cut Ford box, limited slip rear diff from Ford Mexico, etc., etc. It was a beast. I love that car. I owned it for about a year and then I sold it because I was worried I was going to lose my driving license. I have never been caught speeding. I have never had any citations on my driving license. I was just worried that I would. And the story goes that one night I was, those of you know Kate Watt and Elliot and I we go back a long way. We've been best friends for years. And she had just come back from a flight to North America. Can't remember if it was to Canada or the US. I think it might have actually been Alaska, so it was the US. She was driving, she was coming back from Heathrow and she'd asked me to pick her up. She also let me look after her car for the week because she has a Morris Minor too. And I went and picked her up in Carrie, my hot rod. And I drove from Bristol down to Heathrow and then back. She was so tired, she slept in the car. And it was late at night, I remember that much. And when you drive a classic car, you kind of get used to driving based on the engine speed rather than what the speedometer says, because sometimes they can be a bit inaccurate. But anyway, I was driving down the motorway in 5th gear and I was listening to the engine noise and I looked down at the speedometer and I was doing about 120. So at that point I went, you know what? I think maybe I need to sell this car because it's going to get me into trouble. So I sold it. My other Morris Minor, which is a 65 Morris Minor, and it was a standard 2-door sedan in beautiful rose taupe, which everyone else called grey. It was a car that I stripped down completely to completely strip the car, and I was going to convert it to electric. The challenge, unfortunately, was that Carrie was so badly rusted and had Hebe was so badly rusted and had such bad body panels, and I didn't have access to a jig to straighten her up, and I didn't have any ideas. I didn't have any other gear that I needed to restore the body, and it was going to be really expensive to get someone to do it for me, and I couldn't do that. So that's a bit shame. Am I aware that by the way, Arkimoto are having their factory June tour on the 9th? I know I can't be in two places at once. Maybe I'll send Kate down there. So I had this Morris Minor. I was going to convert it to electric, and that's really how I started my journey into the EV world. My first love obviously goes back to the Enfield electric back when I was a wee little one. But my Morris Minor was the car I was going to convert, and I never managed to do it. There have been some fantastic Morris Minor conversions since then. There's actually a Facebook group for Morris Minor conversions, which I'm part of course. My best friend, Kate, is turning her Morris Minor into an EV. She's got that project on hold right now. Her car is off the road, but such is life. Conversions to EVs are becoming more and more popular. I mean, Robert did a fantastic video this morning on a Range Rover that's been converted by the electric classic electric car company in the UK. I've forgotten their name. That was a fantastic video. And of course, Jaguar with the E-Type Concept Zero EV, which went live last year. It was debuted last year, and of course was the wedding transport car for the royal wedding. I avoided the royal wedding like the plague, and then someone pinged me and said, "Hey, look, there's this video. You should watch this." So I did, and that was pretty cool. So I did some research. Interest in electric cars spiked Saturday after the royal wedding, and I've got screenshots to prove it. They just went whoop. Interest in the Jaguar E-Type, the electric Jaguar, they both went up. Interestingly, the Nissan Leaf went up, the Tesla Model S, the Model X, and the Model 3. They all went up in interest, and that's very interesting indeed. Conversion is a no-go in Denmark. That is true also, believe it or not, in where does Gav live? In Slovakia. So it's very difficult in Slovakia to get a converted car. Same is true in Denmark because of the regulations about vehicles and modifications, etc., etc. But in the UK and the US, it seems to be quite a normal thing. The Jag EV was so cool, and I'm making a video about that, and I think that was a fantastic coup for Jaguar, because look, Jaguar hasn't really been known for electric vehicles until recently, and now Jaguar has made this car, this electric conversion, and it's got a whole lot of attention. All of the newspapers were full of it. It was a really big coup. Follow that up with the I-Pace launch, deliveries over the next few months. Follow that up with the I-Pace in Formula E. Follow that up with the Range Rover and the Range Rover models that are coming out as plug-in hybrids. This is a great coup for Jaguar Land Rover. Very, very clever marketing move. And importantly, Jaguar Land Rover put that vehicle in front of people that wouldn't ordinarily want to know anything about EVs. People who do not know anything about electric cars saw that vehicle and went, wow, that is beautiful. Wow, that's quiet. Tell me more. You see, Tesla has always been a car that has appealed to techies, to people who are either tech savvy or interested in that sphere. Whereas Jaguars haven't really necessarily appealed to that. They're a completely different market. And by exposing the general public to this very cool vehicle by royal appointment, very big kudos to Jaguar looking forwards. Apparently, you have to have all kinds of letters and permissions, and it's very difficult. I would like to convert a Citroen HY van to an electric camper. Lots of space for batteries. There's a Citroen H in Portland. It's now a coffee stand, and there's a guy who drives it around Portland, and he has this general parking space. In fact, it used to be just down the road from WeWork, which is where my office used to be. So there we are. So I think that was everything I was going to talk to you about today. We'll go down the list. Tesla, the braking issue. I have to explain that and how it works and blah, blah, blah. The royal wedding, fully charged live, classic EVs. Oh, and what's coming over the next couple of months? Right, okay. That's movement for Transport Evolved. What I'm going to be up to, where I'm going to be, where you can see me, where you can see the videos, what we're going to be producing. All right, so on this hard drive right here is the proxy media version of the Tesla Model 3 review. All of the original footage is on my server, and I finally figured out a way so that when I'm away from the studio, I can edit on my laptop using proxy media. If you don't know what proxy media is, it is essentially a low resolution version of the original footage. And you can use that to edit, to tell the story. And then what you do is you take your proxy media, and you edit it. And then when you want to work with the original media, or in this case, the optimized media, which is all ProRes format, you tell the computer to stop using proxy and start using ProRes. Now, if you're in a situation where you don't have the original media, what you do is you export an XML file, which is a very short text file. You send that to your main edit machine, which is the thing I'm talking to you on now, and you go build this. Right, so it builds a carbon copy of the thing that you were working on, but instead of using proxy media, it uses the real media, and then it can export, do all the hard work and all the hard lifting without making your laptop explode. And so I'm working on the Tesla Model 3 review right now. I've also recorded an introduction and an apology for the Chrysler Pacifica. And I'm also working on the final day of CES. I know that was a long time ago, but Brandon was sick. And so the content we produced that day was not the greatest, but I still want to produce it. And I've been learning a lot of video editing techniques over the last year or so. And I don't know if you've noticed, a lot of the videos I've been producing, they're much better cut together, especially the reviews, than they once were. And it's mainly down to Brandon. He's been really helpful and coached me a lot. And I will be seeing Brandon again in a couple of weeks, so I'll probably pick his brain some more. Hi, Brandon. We were rooming at a convention a couple of weeks ago together, and he's. I mean, I showed him some of the footage for the Model 3 review, and he was like, "Oh, it's good." So it's going to be a good one. It's got his approval. All right. So, so the Model 3, the hybrid, Chrysler Pacifica hybrid, sorry, which is a plug-in hybrid, but they don't call it a plug-in hybrid. It's just the Chrysler Pacifica hybrid. That one was recorded when I was just recovering the day after I had surgery. And so I was a little bit out of it when I recorded the review. So there are some weird things in that review. You just have to deal with it. CES day 5. What else? I've got some more stuff from Kate on the way. I've got some more kind of non-news-based vlogs, daily vlogs. I don't know what to call those. The little 5-minute, 6-minute videos I do every day. If you have an idea, tell me, because I'd like to brand that up. Because people see 10, they think this channel, I think they think of this channel as 10, but it's actually Transport Evolved. And then TEN is Transport Evolved News, which is the one that gets most of the hits and most of the views. So I've got to figure out my branding on that one. What else am I doing? I have got a motorcycle review on the way, which hasn't been filmed yet because we haven't tied down a date, a week, where I can get the motorbike where I'm actually here for the entire week, because these things are very difficult to tie down. I have a Nissan Leaf for the first week of my time in the UK, and I'm going to be focusing on the rapid gate and rapid charging. So if you are in the UK and you're interested in telling me your stories with the Nissan Leaf on that, let me know. I'm just keen to figure out how long it does, how that works. Do a comparison of MC with QC. MC? Motorcycles with quick charging, maybe? This motorcycle does have quick charging. So if you're a motorcycle person, and you are any way at all into the EV bike scene, you probably know which bike I'm going to be borrowing, and I'm very excited about it. What Queenie Fast info, combine your brands. I think that might drive some people away. It might not. I mean, I genuinely thought that, when I started, throwing Queenie and Chimmy around on this channel or on the main channel, I genuinely thought that I was going to lose subscribers. But someone said that I should do it, and I kind of did it as a dare. And then you all went, "Wow, that's really cute and wonderful." And then it went on from there. So, yeah. So back to my schedule. This week, I'm working on a couple of videos. I'm working on the Model 3 review. I'm working on the Pacifica hybrid review. Hopefully they will all be revealed and released in the next month or so. I am going to be away a lot, which means the content I'm producing is probably going to drop down. There's not a lot I can do about that. I'm away on Friday. There was another convention I'm going to. It's a local convention that I used to be very heavily involved with. I am no longer involved with it because politics. And I'm going because I've been asked to go by several people. And so I'm just going to go and hide for the entire weekend. The next week, I'm off to the UK on Friday. I'll be in the UK for nearly 2 weeks. And that first week I will be in the UK. I'm probably not going to be doing a lot of Transport Evolved stuff because I have to go and see, I want to go and see family members. As those who watch regularly will know, I have a sister who is terminally ill. And so I will go and spend some time with her. I want to see my other sister who has been fighting breast cancer too for the last year. So I've got both my siblings have breast cancer. And then there's something else going on in the family that I need to sort out as well. So lots of stuff going on. And then they'll be fully charged. When I come back, I will be here for another week. The week I get back, the week after I get back, I will be at the EV Roadmap Conference, which is in Portland, literally like a mile down the road from my house. Well, from my studio. Forth, which is the mobility company, their offices are about half a mile that way, and then I'll be like a mile, maybe a mile and a half in the centre of town for the EV Roadmap Conference, so that's going to be good. There'll probably be the Women in Electric Vehicles meetup, which there normally is, which I take part in, and then there will be, what else? I'm going somewhere else after that, another event. And then I'm off to Pittsburgh for Anthrocon, and there will be another kind of disruption in Friday programming for that. And it's my hope that I'll be able to produce a whole lot of content between now and then to tide you over, so it won't feel like I'm kind of abandoning you, because I quite like producing content regularly. There's another couple of videos potentially in the pipeline that I might film in the UK and produce, but I'm not going to talk about those because I haven't finalized details, and I have learned the very hard way that when you promise stuff, you say, hey, I'm going to do this, and then it doesn't happen. You feel a complete and utter berk. So that is it. The company that invited me to China has invited me to China again. Unfortunately, it clashes with my trip to the UK and Fully Charged Live, so I have said no. It is the same company that is yet to reimburse me for tickets that I had to buy. So they're not the flavour of the month right now. I haven't covered them at all since that, and I'm not going to name them. I'm not gonna. That's unprofessional. And if they have any large announcements, I will cover them impartially, and we'll go there. No, they haven't refunded my costs. They have refunded the costs of one of the other people that actually went. They haven't refunded mine, and I wasn't able to go because of issues. So, you know, we'll see what happens. Don't forget Leaf Spy. Good point. The Leaf Spy dongle is currently sitting in my wife's car, so I'll have to remember that. That really is it. So essentially for the next few weeks, for the next month or two, things are going to be kind of crazy. I've got a concert that I'm preparing, another concert that I'm preparing for, another convention. So that plus Transport Evolved, plus all these other things, I'm going to be busy. I'm going to be really, 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 really busy. So one final time, if you haven't subscribed to this channel before, please make sure that you do. Hit the like, comment, subscribe, all of that nice goodness. Watch other videos on this channel, because the more videos that are watched by you guys on this channel, the closer I get to being able to actually get some income from this channel. And every time I make a new channel on Transport Evolved's YouTube network, I have to start from zero again. Did I reply to my last question? No, I didn't. What is your last question? Am I going to do any reviews of the EV pickups with Rex ICE, like from Workhorse or Via? I would love to. The problem is this, and I'm going to let you into a secret here. The issue, Transport Evolved generally, we're not big enough to be taken notice of by a lot of big companies. So a lot of mainstream brands don't really know or want to interact, because they are going after mainstream publications rather than EV specialists. That didn't used to be the case, but it's slowly becoming the case. Small companies just don't have the vehicles to lend, which means if I want to go and do a review or want to make a video, I have to actually go to them to actually do those things. And that can be quite a costly experience. I mean, I know that it's something that Robert and the team in the UK with Fully Charged, they have the same issue. You know, if they have to go somewhere to do something, it either costs them or they have to get whoever it is to invite them and cover costs. That's just the way it works. I want to do pickups because I love pickups. I am a pickup person. I grew up on a farm, off-road pickups. I love both of those vehicle types. And I would love to do more reviews of them. So it's something that I'm hoping I can do in the future. I've got a potential tour of an EV production facility coming up. I've also got I'm working with another car company on doing some tours of another EV production facility and following a well-known EV through the production line. It's not Tesla. Surprise, surprise. I'm working on that. So yeah, I hope to do more reviews and outsidey stuff. The other thing to bear in mind here is that when it's just me, I have to make a decision. It takes time, money, and resources for me to travel, which I don't mind doing. I don't mind traveling. But it also means that I can't be here making videos. Now, obviously, I don't have to stop and talk to you every day, because that's taking up an hour of my time. I've really enjoyed myself, but from a time management point of view, time spent doing this means I'm not filming. Time spent traveling means I'm not filming. And doing a proper review shoot takes more than a day. So the Scoot review I did, I filmed that 3 times. I've got 3 times the footage that actually made it into the final cut. And even the final cut was too long. And some of you commented on that. I left it long because it was a slightly different review and I was trying something different. But normally if I'm going to do a proper review of a car or proper feature, I need at least 2 days with the vehicle. So the Model 3, for example, we spent an entire day doing exterior shots, drive-bys, in cars, chases, etc., etc. And I'm going to hopefully do an EV bus. That's the other thing I'm working on. But that takes a lot of time and effort. And then I can't do the daily stuff. So when I get somebody else on board, hopefully it will expand what I can do. If somebody else is doing the editing, I can just focus on making videos. And I can blat out, those little 10 shorts. What did someone call them? TE snippets. Snippets, do I see that right? Snippets. I've seen them both suggested. I can throw those out in a day. So Monday, Tuesday, I made Monday and Tuesday. Monday, I made Monday and Tuesday video. Yesterday, I wrote and filmed today and tomorrow's video. Tomorrow, I'm going to be filming and editing and producing 10 for Friday. I'll be doing that a day earlier because I'm away on Friday. So there is some flexibility. But in general, if I'm going to see a small company, they may not have a vehicle that I can have for a particularly long period of time. They may be out of the way. And a lot of those companies are not entirely sure they want the coverage yet because their vehicles aren't ready for production. Or alternatively, they're super keen. I turn up, I get behind the wheel and discover that it's a complete train wreck even. And that's not a good thing either. A good example of that would be a Land Rover Jaguar a converted Range Rover. It was nothing to do with Jaguar Land Rover. Just to reiterate, it was nothing to do with Jaguar Land Rover. It was converted by a company in the UK. This is like 10 years ago, 10 years ago. And it was terrifyingly poor. I mean, I turned up at their workshop. They put me in the vehicle. They kind of showed me how the thing worked. They'd let me go out in it. Halfway around my test drive, one of the in-wheel motors stopped working, and then the car was torque steering, dangerously torque steering. It suffered like a battery issue while I was going around. And then it's very difficult for me to do a review on that technology. Now, the caveat to that is, or the kind of the alternative to that is, if a company says, come ride our vehicle, come drive our vehicle, it's a prototype, these are the things we know aren't working, tell us what you think. You're happy, you're welcome to produce a review. Then I can go in knowing this haven't been produced yet. I can talk about it being a work in progress, and I can talk about it not being a fully finished version. I would very much like it if every company behaved that way, gave me those riders up front, but not all of them do. And sometimes that can leave me a feeling of like I've wasted time, or I don't get, the reviews and the eyeballs. So it's a very complicated process when I'm trying to figure out which videos to make, where I go, what I spend my time doing. One of the reasons why I do CES every year is CES is easy for us because everything's under one roof. We're going to have to get more researchers involved next year for CES because we missed so much. We really did. We missed so much. Alex said E for Electric did a review of the W15, but it would be nice if you could do the questioning since they didn't give enough specs on it. Did Alex actually drive it? I know he had the guy on from E for Electric, from Workhorse. I don't think he actually drove it. I might be wrong. Or maybe he did. He did review it. He did get to drive it. I don't know where he was though. Doesn't look like he did much in the way of driving. Doesn't look like he did much in the way of driving, which is a bit of a shame. But I like Alex. He's doing a good job. Just the interview, yeah. I mean, that's the thing. I want to actually drive these vehicles, and sometimes the company go, it's not possible yet. So, and yes, I am aware of Archimoto, and yes, I'm going to try and get a vehicle for a while. And yes, I'm going to go down and work with them. Now I've got the Bolt, that's a lot easier for me to do. So there are some other things coming. Don't worry. Don't panic. Okay, that's the hour up for the hang time. I hope you had a good time. Like I say, like, comment, and subscribe. Go buy stuff from the Transport Evolved store if you fancy it. We are going to be looking to get some new designs up soon. So if you have any ideas for apparel or whatever, let me know. I'd love to know what you think. And I really do like it when people send me ideas and thoughts about what we can do to make the channel better. And it sure as heck beats people making stupid comments about child labor on videos about Cobalt, which I was really shocked about that yesterday. I must say, I was just going to do? Thanks for watching. Take care. And as always, keep evolving.